Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Things, love, and light, and welcome to this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I am your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I'm a minister, spiritual life coach, holistic nutritionist, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And if you tuned into last week's show, I was talking about the fact that How Now is taking a little hiatus as we prepare in this fourth quarter for 2025. And so if you hadn't had an opportunity to see the show, please check it out on the How Now YouTube channel. And you can get there by going to www.hownowpodcast.com, clicking on your favorite podcast platform, and be sure that you like, follow, share, and subscribe. And then if you click on the banner at the bottom of the page, it will take you to that How Now YouTube channel where you can catch some of the shows that you may have missed, and also check out my playlists like Tuesday, and also see what other things have been going on in my now. And again, that's www.hownowpodcast.com. And so this week we're going to be doing another Rewind Wednesday, again in preparation for 2025. So we're going to be filling up our toolbox, and that's what we've been talking about for the better part of this year. What are some things that we can do to fill our toolboxes spiritually, mentally, and physically? And so today I want to do a Rewind Wednesday from a show that I aired back in November of 2023 with Jenna Banks. She is the author of a book that's called I Love Me More. I Love Me More. And so she talked about self-love and talked about creating a revolution, your own personal revolution. And that's what we want to do going into 2025. We want to prepare ourselves and fill our toolboxes with things that are going to continue to help us be the best version of ourselves that we can be. So check out the show. The information is still as relevant as the day that she aired that show with me. And I think that it's going to be something that you can put in your toolbox and reach back for whenever you need it. And with that being said, I hope that you enjoy the show. And until I see you the next time, I say peace. Okay, so welcome to this edition of the show where we will be talking about being a revolution. Ooh, okay, your journey to self-love. One of the greatest relationships that we can have is a relationship with ourselves. And as we're going into the holiday season, we know that there are some challenges. There's depression, there is anxiety, there are a lot of emotions that come into play. And one way that we can self-regulate, one way that we can, be more at peace is to begin that love affair with ourselves, to really sit with ourselves and to determine what we need to do to be the best versions of ourselves. And it starts with self-love. And here to help me talk all about things that are self-love related is my beautiful, beautiful guest. And as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have her to introduce herself at this time.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, Ms. Kim. I appreciate it. My name is Jenna Banks, and I am a speaker, an author, and a social impact entrepreneur. And my mission is to help others, especially women, learn how to fall in love with themselves and prioritize themselves.
Yes, because it's all about making sure that we put ourselves first. Right. We always hear so many of the cliches where, you can't pour from an empty cup, but it's true. We can't. We have to make sure that we're filling ourselves, I believe, to a point of overflow. So that way we're not only giving of ourselves, we give to others, but still have something left for ourselves so that we can celebrate together.
That's right. That's right.
Huge.
Huge. I have a different metaphor, actually. If you don't mind, I'll share it with you. I don't really relate well to the empty cup, or I can see it, but it feels like it's outside of myself. Right. So I like to talk about it in the framework of a power container. So imagine that you have a power container We all understand that word power, like energy, right?
Mhm.
And it rests in your soul area. And when it's filled up or charged up, as I like to say, you feel on top of the world. You can feel like you can take on any challenge or project. You know when you're charged up because you're magnetic. When you get out in the world, you go to the grocery store, strangers start talking to you out of nowhere. People just want to get to know you. You
That's
know what that feels like when you're charged up. But we also know what it feels like when we're drained or depleted, like our cell phone, right? Things
right.
don't start functioning as well. Suddenly you're pessimistic, you're moody, you're crabby at others. I tend to get resentful toward others. And a lot of times we don't connect the dots, right? We don't connect the dots, and that when we're low on energy, low on power, that we start to look to others to charge us up. We're looking for a charge somewhere.
Right.
And we just start, lashing out at people, thinking, oh, you're doing this and you're doing that. No, actually, what I found is if you take the time to go spend time charging up, practicing self-care, and giving yourself some love and attention, your own love and attention, that we start to recharge and all of that stuff goes away and you're back to feeling great again. And it has nothing to do with anyone else. At the end of the day, it comes down to you spending time with yourself, you giving yourself what you need, your own care, your own love, and attention on a regular basis. And unfortunately, especially as women, we have been raised not to prioritize that. We have this programming that runs in our mind that it's selfish to put our needs first. But like you mentioned earlier, when we are full or charged up, we have so much more to give. We can give to others from that overflow. So yes, absolutely.
I love that. I love that metaphor, and it's so important for us, And I love that metaphor that you use, saying that it is like a cell phone. There is a battery that's inside of us. That
Mhm.
energy that is inside of us, that source that's inside of us, that definitely needs to be recharged. And like I said, once you plug into that, it is from within that power is restored. So I love that you say that too. I love that you call it a power container, because that's what we are. We
Yeah.
are containers. We have the ability to recharge ourselves, and it comes from within. And it's
Mhm.
so important that we remember that. And so
Mhm.
I love that analogy, and that's what we definitely need to do. We definitely need to power up, so that way we're tapping into that resource. Because if it is external, just like you said, when it's not there or when it's depleted out there, where else can we
Mhm.
come? Where does it come from? It has to
Mhm.
come from inside. So I
You got
love
to stop what you're doing and go take time to recharge. When I notice, I'll catch myself now if I'm starting to be moody or not pleasant to be around, and I start to want to look to others like, oh, as the source of the issue. I have to stop and realize it's not them, it's me. And
right.
I just need to go, I'm not taking the time I need for myself, and that's my indication for that. So it just like you plug in a cell phone, I find that you really need to plug yourself in every single day, even if it's just as simple as taking 15 minutes in the morning to journal and connect with yourself like that, or pray, right? Or meditate, to do just some little things that you enjoy doing every single day. Make that time for you, because again, it's not selfish. Everyone benefits when you're fully charged up. They get the good side of you, the happy you, the loving you, the energized you. They're
Yeah.
going to be better off if you take that time to charge up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that ties in, or what it does is it makes me think of, when sometimes we have to tell people no.
Yeah.
And some people, oh, I can't tell them no. And I find it so much easier to say to someone, if there's something that I can't do, I said, I'm sorry, I'm not able to do that, because I want to give you the best. And
Mhm.
right now, if I say yes, it won't be my best effort. So I'll have to say no. And people tend to understand that a little more. They're like, oh, wow, she's wanting to do it, in the best way possible. And she's telling me
Mhm.
that right now, she's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so, there's a level of respect that comes with that too. They're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
It's not you just saying no, you're saying that, if I want to do this and I want you to have the best version of me or the best, efforts made, I'm not going to be able to do it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And it's okay to say that.
That's
So,
right. I'm glad you brought that up. Saying no is really important, and saying yes to yourself. It's saying, I need to take care of me right now, and
yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you're not creating, like you said, that animosity or that anger towards someone, or you're not placing blame on that person. We're looking from within, and I absolutely love that. So let's talk a little bit about, some of the things that were going on prior to the pandemic happening, in things that you were doing, and then some of the pivots that you have had to make since the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. I had an interesting situation, unlike probably most of your listeners, in that I had a business I started in 2012, and I sold it at the very tail end of 2019,
Wow.
right before the pandemic hit. So I was already pivoting. I had the opportunity to sell it. I ended up selling it for $500,000. So I wasn't going to say no to that.
Right.
And I thought, if God, the universe, is going to give me this opportunity, this means that I'm supposed to do something more in my career. And so I took that time when the pandemic hit to really just contemplate things. I already knew I wanted to write the book that I published earlier this year. But so it gave me the opportunity to have the space and the time and the alone time, right?
Yes.
The alone time to actually get it written. But I actually so I wasn't working. I was learning. I had my learning hat on. But I was also doing a lot of healing, Kim. I had been in a toxic relationship, and we broke up during the pandemic. Unfortunately, I think the pandemic broke a lot of bad relationships up, because you had to really face what you were dealing with.
Right.
At that time, everyone's home together and there's no escaping it. So,
Right.
so I had that epiphany, and we went our separate ways. But then, I had to take that time to reflect on what got me in that situation in the first place, why I had been in these patterns. It really was a huge mirror for me. And I was able to go on some pretty intense healing through that process, and learned a lot about myself, and just got more connected with me. And so I needed that time and space for that. And then, like I said, to go ahead and write the book, which I was going through that at the same time I started writing the book. So I share some of that in the book as well. And so, yeah, when I came out of that, I had a whole new career and a whole new direction.
Yes. And I'm sure, I'm sure it was kind of a purging.
It was, yeah.
A purging and at the same time, a cleansing.
Yeah. Big time.
Being able to release those things. And that's something that I think is a good starting point when we start talking about falling in that love affair with ourselves. First, taking responsibility for our part in the things that are going on, and not looking to place blame, but to say, okay, what have I learned from this?
Yeah.
And how can I grow in this process? And so I'm sure that, being able to write was therapeutic.
Oh, yes.
And, like you said, it really helped to give you a perspective and to find the words, because sometimes that's a difficult thing too, finding the words to describe what it is that you're feeling or what it is that you're going through. And some of us feel limited in our ability to express ourselves.
Well, that is why I'm a big advocate for journaling. That I started journaling when I started getting prepared to write the book, because I had never written anything like that before. I'd written plenty of business website, blogs and things like that, but emails, lots of emails, lots of procedures and policies, and even board game rules, but never written a book. So I thought, well, where do I start? And I read somewhere that if you just start writing in your journal 3 pages a day, and don't second guess, don't edit what you write, just let it flow, anything. And so I got into that habit, and that's where I established my journaling practice. Now, I'll tell you, most of what I wrote didn't end up in the book, because some of that was just, like you said, therapeutic and just writing it. But I'll tell you, it really helped me connect even deeper with myself and get a lot of those things out that I didn't have words for previously. So, so if anyone listening now doesn't have a journaling practice, I highly recommend it. I mean, really, it's what got me started is thinking, oh, 3 pages, 15 minutes, not a big deal. And it really isn't a big deal. And you think, yeah, I can start it and see how it goes. And pretty soon you get used to the good feeling of being able to put words to your feelings. And you'll find that surprisingly, you work out a lot of your problems. You don't take it out on people because you can self-reflect and you realize that, maybe this is my own problem.
Right. Once you put them on the paper, the good thing about journaling is you can put it on the paper and say what you want to say. And if it's not quite, where you want to be, you can toss that piece of paper, you can burn it, throw it in the trash. You don't have to worry about it.
That's
Once
right.
the words are out of your mouth and you said it to somebody, it sticks.
That's right.
Reel them back in. It's not like
Can't
the
take it
words
back.
are on a fishing rod and you can just reel it back in and say no. Or like you see on those the little Facebook things where people are like, they go to type something in and they're like, no, and they go back. We have to be able to express ourselves and to be able to gauge what it is that we're expressing, so that we're like, okay, no, maybe that was a bit too much. Okay, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't enough. And I love that. I love that idea of journaling. It's so important to be able to express ourselves.
Yeah. Even that relationship I mentioned, I broke up with the gentleman during the pandemic. Here I thought it was all him, but come to find out it was me. Not that I was doing anything wrong, but I had to heal the parts of me that were accepting those things for so long. Or accepting that treatment or accepting that behavior or just attracting that type of individual in the first place and not valuing myself enough and not having enough self-worth, which really comes back to self-love, right? And it's like, you can't blame the person in the end. I was the one who let this in. I was the one who attracted it and I was the one who fed into it. And once you grow your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-confidence and all that, you realize, oh, I will never allow that again. Right.
And I love that you say that because it's important for us to set boundaries. We hear that that's one of the buzzwords of the day. We're hearing that, set boundaries. You have to, give people some parameters as to how they're going to treat you. How you wish to be addressed, how you wish to be spoken to, how and it's a matter of giving people permission to do certain things. And once we do that, it kind of opens the door. And it's not saying that people are not gaslighters, and that's another term that we hear. There are people out there who will turn the tables and make it appear to be your fault. But so there's a lot that comes with it,
boundaries can also be you saying, you know what, you don't need to be in my space as well, right? I mean, if they're not, at the end of the day, self-love is making sure you're in situations that bring you peace and joy and happiness and light you up. And if any relationship isn't doing that for you and it only serves to be the opposite for you, you can just mosey on out, and just that's it. And it really doesn't matter who you are, right? And what relation they are to you. Nobody has a right to treat you badly. Nobody. And you have the right to have your boundaries of your space. And you know what, if they don't believe it's a privilege to be in your life, then they don't need to be in your life.
That toxicity is real. And it's something that a lot of people, like you said, during this pandemic time and sitting with people, not only were you sitting with yourself, you were sitting with that other individual and then saying, I thought I liked this person, but not so much. You start saying that, you can't do it with your children, of course, but you're just like, oh, I may not like some of the things that you're doing. So let's talk about some of those things. So, it puts us in a space of self-actualization.
Yes, it does.
And saying, okay, this is who I am. And what are some things that I like? And what are some things that are a hard no for me?
Mm-hmm.
It's really starting to understand those things, and it can
Yeah,
happen in different seasons in your life. I
that's
think about
right.
myself. I have a daughter who passed away 13 years
Oh,
ago,
oh, I'm sorry.
and when I lost her, I was also going through a divorce, and I was also
Oh,
empty nesting. So a
oh,
lot was going on during that time.
mm,
And you say, okay, well, what's happening? And when things finally started to quote unquote normalize, everyone had gone back to their respective homes, and everyone was gone. I was left to sit with myself and say, okay, so now what do I do? And I had someone
yeah,
ask me, they said, well, Kim, now that you're single and you've empty nested, and we're sorry that you've lost your daughter. They were like, so what do you like to do? What are you going to do? And I didn't have
mm,
an answer.
yeah.
I
A lot of
did
people
not
are in that position,
know.
though. A
Right.
lot of
I had
people.
no idea what to do with
Mm,
myself. You have people who empty nested, their children have gone off to college, and then you see people living vicariously through their children because they don't know how
yeah,
to let go,
yeah,
because they don't know anything about themselves.
that's right. Yeah,
And especially as women, we do that because we've been so defined by the roles that we play
yeah,
in everyone's life, that when those roles are no longer as active as they were, we don't know how to proceed. We're like, oh,
yeah,
yeah, but we had goals and dreams and aspirations before we had children,
yeah,
and then now it's like, okay, so now what do I do?
yeah.
And it's a matter of discovering, okay, where do I go from here?
What do I
How do
like?
I
What do I enjoy? What do I want to do?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
so
find that as mothers, especially, it's very easy to wrap our sense of identity and self-worth
yeah,
into our children and their lives and how they turn out.
right.
I went through a big epiphany in that area, and I wrote about it in my book. It was hard to share, honestly, because it was such a tough time in my life. I don't want to equate my situation to your situation, because I can't even imagine what it's like to lose a young daughter like that,
Mhm.
and in the middle of going through all that you were going through. So I can't even imagine. But my son had he was in college, so he was already out of the house. I had moved across the country, broken up with my boyfriend. So similarly, I went through a lot of trauma, and then all of a sudden, a week after all that changed, my son goes to a big music festival, and he calls me up on his way home, and I couldn't recognize this person. He seemed to be on drugs.
Oh, wow.
He did admit to doing it, and I thought, okay, maybe it'll be fine in a couple of days. But guess what? Things never changed, and he got worse and worse. He ended up having a mental break. He became psychotic.
Wow.
It took many months for them to come up with a diagnosis, but he ended up in the hospital for a week, out of control body movements,
Wow.
and he eventually got the diagnosis of psychosis, and then they were able to medicate him, and he started at least being able to function, but
Right.
he never returned to the way he was before. And I was so wrapped up. I had done my best as a mom, right? You get your
Right.
kids off to college, you give
Right.
them every opportunity, send them to all the sports and the gymnastics and the whatever, and you think, okay, great, I did a good job, he's off to a good start in life. And then this happens, and all of that is taken away.
Yeah.
All of it's taken away. He drops out of school, loses his job, stops caring about his appearance and hygiene. He's 2 steps away from being homeless. And you think, my God. So I had to go through another huge awakening during that time and realize that, the situation was taking me down too.
Right.
Right. Because as a mother, we wrap so much of our identity up in our children.
Right.
And yet I knew, I had so much to do in this world. I had so many ambitions.
Mhm.
I couldn't go down like this. And I also started remembering my observations about mom guilt and worry growing up with my grandmother, who was so wrapped up in all of that. It kind of ruled her life, guilt and worry, guilt and worry. Now, my grandmother was a Jewish grandma.
Mhm.
That Jewish grandma guilt, mom guilt is real. Let me tell you. But so I saw all of that, and I saw how it ate her up, and it would put her in depressions and
Right.
anxiety, and she went through this all of her life, up until until she died at the age of 96. And I thought, I am not going to live my life like that. It's a waste of a human life. We as women are worth more than that. Our lives are worth living to the fullest, to be charged up fully. And I had to realize that my son's life is not my life. I'm his mother. I did my best. But now I love how your show is about being in the now. Being in the now was accepting what is. It just is, right? No judgment. It's not bad or good or right or wrong. It is.
It is.
And when we can accept it and just let it be what it is, without judgment, without guilt, without worry, without shame, right?
That's right.
Then you can just let that be. And that's what I did, is I lived in the now. And I thought, his life is what it is now. This is his new normal.
Right.
And I have to accept it.
Right.
And you know what? He ends up getting on disability. He gets free health care from the state of California. And I could have chosen to, again, be wrapped up in my identity and his life situation. Like, oh, now I have to bleed myself dry trying to give him some life that I wanted for him.
Right.
No. I had to stop all of that and just let him be with that. And you know what? To this day, he's still on disability and still on Medicaid healthcare, government healthcare. And you know what? He's doing fine. He's doing great. He's back in school studying. What was it, 7 years after the incident? He has a part-time job working in retail. He gets by. He has a roof over his head. He shops at Whole Foods. He buys $8 chocolate bars that I won't even buy. So I'm like, honey, why are you getting Starbucks? Can't you just make coffee at home?
Right. My cheapness will not allow me. No, right. Yeah. But you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We have to know our value and our worth and know that our life is worth living.
Yeah,
just like you said, a big portion of how I cope and deal with the loss of my daughter is that I live for those who are still here.
Yeah, exactly.
My oldest daughter lost her only sibling, and my parents lost their one of their 3 granddaughters. And I mean it was a challenge for everyone involved, and I could not lay down with her.
Yes, exactly.
I had to give her back to the source that gave her to me.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so it's a matter of, it's mindset and perspective.
It is.
And being able to realize that in living in this now and moving and navigating in this space, there is a freedom that comes with that.
Yeah.
You don't forget. You honor and you cherish and you remember those things that were.
Yep.
And then you begin to start thinking about what is. We can celebrate and we can think about those things fondly that were.
Yeah.
But what is happening now? We don't want to miss what's happening now, because that's going to be another memory.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. That's so beautiful. One of my favorite books in the whole world was written by Deepak Chopra, and it's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. And in it, he says something like, everything is as it should be. The universe is exactly as it should be. So if you struggle against this moment, you are struggling against the entire universe. Everything is exactly as it should be. And I love that. It is like every little thing that happened, there's a reason for everything. And so if we can move to a place of acceptance versus struggle.
Yes.
It's a much more peaceful, joyous, exuberant place to live. Because you're right. It's all about perspective. It's all about perspective.
And we have to be able to function and live in that space and let things happen as they do, and be cognizant of those things, knowing that, okay, something is going on and I feel this particular way about it, and I'm going to let that emotion flow through me. I'm not going to act negatively on it,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm going to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
It's like we want to be acknowledged. We hear another big buzzword that we're hearing a lot of is empathy.
Mm-hmm.
We're not discounting how someone feels about something. We're saying that, I am sorry that you had the experience that you had, but I'm not discounting that you had it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to say, oh, you're being extra. You're doing the
Right.
most, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that. But what I'm saying is, okay, I acknowledge
Knowledge.
that
Mm-hmm.
you had the experience that you had,
Yeah.
and what can I do to help you to
Mm-hmm.
move beyond that?
I love how you mentioned letting yourself feel it, but not acting on that. I think that's really important because it is important to let ourselves feel it. The opposite of that is self-medicating and repressing. And unfortunately, there's this toxic male type of situation in our current society
Yes.
where men have to bottle up their emotions, unfortunately, and they don't even know what they feel. There's so many men walking around there who have no clue how they feel. And that's toxic for us. Like, if we can just feel it, not attach anything to it, not try to make a new story out of it and keep it going and lingering, that actually is good for us, right? Just let it flow, let it be, let it feel it so we can move on from it. If you don't allow yourself to feel it, it's going to be there, it's going to stay there until eventually you do let that emotion flow through you. So there's no escaping it.
Right. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
So might as well just let it be in the moment, let it be what it is. But
that's it.
yeah,
Not get caught in the vacuum,
yeah,
because that's what happens too. We get caught in that vacuum, and we stay there and we vacillate, and it's like, why are we doing this? Why are we not able to move on from it? And how is
right.
it helping us if we can't see what's on the other side? So,
Exactly. And then we attach new stories to it too, right? We just, we want to commiserate in the pain. Pain
yes.
loves misery. So then you start attaching new stories to that pain and it just keeps on living.
Right. And you go, thank you, social media, for just keeping it alive forever,
Yeah.
and then bringing it up as a memory
Yeah.
the following year and years to come. And you're just like, really? We're still on this? I thought we were past it. And
Yeah.
so, we have to get to that space, like you said, where we can detach from it, have the feeling, go
Mm-hmm.
through what it is that we're feeling, so that way we can release it and then
Mm-hmm.
be able to move on from that. Okay. So now it's like, okay, I've felt that in that moment, and now I'm okay. So now what am I going to do moving forward? And so let's talk a little bit about that. Let's talk about the fact that it's a revolution that we're creating for ourselves
Yeah.
in the form of self-love. So what are some things that people can start to do? I know we spoke about the
We
journaling,
did. Mm-hmm.
being able to write. What are some other things that people can start to do to begin that revolution of self-love?
Well, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but boundaries are a part of self-love, as I talk about in the book. My book, I Love Me More, is what it's titled. That was a big one for me because boundaries are really there to protect your energy, right? Like and they're also there to protect you from you sometimes. We need boundaries in all kinds of different ways. Boundaries for our emotions, boundaries for our thoughts, boundaries for the things we allow ourselves to get into or not get into. I have boundaries for myself out of self-love, right? Because I care about my well-being and I make sure that I don't get myself into things that I know aren't good for me. But boundaries are tough when we have been raised to be people pleasers. And so that is especially nice girl syndrome. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term. I might have coined it, I'm not sure. I've been using it. I call it nice girl syndrome because I think so many of us women have been raised with that. Now, I've also met guys who've been raised with nice guy syndrome, but I think more often than not, it's the women that suffer from this. And what I mean by that is that we've been raised to be nice, smile, put on that smile and be nice and not really say how we're truly feeling, even when someone does something to cross a boundary. And in fact, we've gotten so used to doing that since we were young girls that we sometimes don't even understand when a boundary is being crossed. We got so used to feeling that happened when someone crosses a boundary and our parents are like, no, 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 you're being bad. You're being a bad girl. Knock it off. Be nice. That's your cousin. That's your uncle, whatever. Like,
Right.
we don't talk to people like that. And so we got used to going, well, ooh, okay, what I feel doesn't matter.
Right.
Right. We need to take care of other people's feelings. And then, we talked about wrapping our identity up in things. We wrapped an identity up in taking care of other people's feelings, right?
Yeah.
You can call it being empathetic or whatever you like, but we create identities out of these things. And then that's really hard to get rid of because we think it's part of who we are. It's our identity, but we don't realize we've been conditioned and programmed this way. And just like we didn't have a choice when we were programmed with this. But when you can start to, as an adult, realize, oh, I have a choice, right? I can choose to honor myself first and make that my priority. That takes time. So I talk about boundaries because that's one of the toughest one. It can take years to undo that conditioning and programming, the nice girl conditioning, because we think, oh, I want to be the nice person. It's a reflex. It's a habit.
Yeah.
But I like to reframe it like this. I'm not being mean. I'm being nice to myself.
That's it.
Self-love. I am being nice to myself, kind to myself, compassionate to myself. If someone is doing something to make me feel uneasy or offends me or diminishes me or devalues me, I owe it to myself to do something about it. Now, maybe the only thing you can do at the moment, the most courageous thing you might be able to do is walk away or say, you know what, I need some space right now or something. At some point, though, over time, you can get good enough at it to say, excuse me, actually, I was just recently in a situation where I was bold enough to be able to say, excuse me, I don't like you saying I'm not entitled to have an opinion. That's not cool. I give you all the space in the world to have an opinion, but you're going to now judge me for having an opinion? That's not okay. That's not a two-way friendship. I'm not all right with that.
Right.
And so to be able to, in the moment, tune into how you're feeling and stand up for yourself, it takes a lot of work.
Yes.
But when you can get there, it feels great. But, in the beginning, it's super uncomfortable. So that is a big one. It's just, I know it's a term that's going around right now, but it's one thing to talk about it. It's another thing to really do the inner work required to get good at even just tuning into the boundaries, let alone learning how to properly set them in a way that, doesn't make you the mean person or whatever. You don't have to be that. You can just, it's a change people have to get used to.
That's it. It's just like with exercise. You're exercising that muscle.
Yeah.
That's required. And the only way that it's going to get stronger is if you use it.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that you say that because it is something that doesn't just happen instantly. Like you said, it became a habit for us to do the things that we're doing and to think the way we're thinking. It's going to take time for us to reverse that and the effects of it. But we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent.
But let me tell you what happens, though. The nice side effect is you get respect. You get respect, and your value increases for yourself. And then that value gets reflected in the outside world.
That's it.
Now you're treated more valuably. You get raises at work. People value your time. You get treated differently. But it starts with you. That's why self-love is so important. Everything really is a reflection of what comes from you. Yeah. So it starts with you and how you treat yourself.
Yeah. Because that gives people permission to see how they are to treat you, and they'll follow suit. I absolutely love that. I love that because it's so true, and I've seen it evidenced in my own life when you walk in and people are just like, "Who is that?" Because you have a presence, you have an energy, you have something like you said that
power container.
Yes, that draws people to you. And people just come and they start talking to you. You're just like, what in the world did I do? It's how you carry yourself, and it's an aura
It is. Yeah.
It's almost like people see a light around you and they're drawn to it. Like, what's
Mm-hmm.
going on? Who is that? And I need to know who that is. Or I need to go over. They feel compelled to come and speak to you
Mm-hmm.
because there's something about your energy. There's something about that inner glow, that peace that you have that people are drawn to.
I love that you said that inner glow. It's again, I go back to the power container analogy. It
Yeah.
really is perfect for this because when you charge yourself up, I say we charge up through self-care and we stop the drains of our power through self-love.
Yeah.
So self-care and self-love are also very different. And I want to make sure we have time for this. We do.
Yes.
So I'll hit on that a little bit because I think it's really important to understand the difference between self-care and self-love. I think they get used interchangeably, but they're really not quite the same, although they do go hand in hand. But I think I like to think of self-care as charging up and self-love as stopping the drain. So remember how I talked about boundaries protecting our energy. So that would be a drain if we're not protecting our energy, right? So let's say we let our boundary get crossed. We don't stand up for ourselves. That feeling that we feel when a boundary gets crossed, we just let it happen. Power gets drained. How do you feel when that happens? You feel low on energy. You feel depleted. You feel resentful. Right? You feel those feelings that come when your energy is drained from you, but you're letting it happen, which is why it's really important to get good at these things like protecting our boundaries because it protects your power container from leakages. It protects the drains. And so charging up, I like to charge up through self-care. So I mentioned journaling, for example, just spending that time. It's things we do for ourselves. It's that time we spend with ourselves. And it looks different for everybody, right? Like I like to go get a foot massage more than a back massage. That for me is just, I will charge up over that. Some people like getting their nails done. And my boyfriend loves getting a pedicure. It's like he feels like it's self-care. I love that. It's for me, it's more of I need to do it. But for him, he's like, ooh, this is self-care. And it charges him up. He really needs to spend time, that time in the morning doing his own journaling. He gets a major charge from it. But not everyone, gets the same kind of charge. I like to go for a walk on a sunny day. If I look out my window and I see it's a beautiful day, I need to get off the computer and go for a walk, put on my earbuds, listen to some music. That does it for me, but that doesn't do it for everyone. So with that self-care, you could think of it more of like an external thing, like outside your body, the self-care. It's, the little things that you can do that are simple, easy, that get you charged up, or it might be taking a vacation, which is something a little more extensive. That's self-care, going to the spa, something like that. But that's not like the deeper stuff, like going on a healing journey or protecting your boundaries or, the internal work is more self-love that's the way I refer to it. So doing the things that charge you up, self-care is one of them. Another thing I would like to recommend is to charge up is to celebrate your wins. Pat yourself on the back throughout the day. It's really important because if you stop and think about it, most of that inner self-talk that goes on throughout our day is negative. Right? It's us beating ourselves up for what we didn't do. It's getting mad when we don't do something perfectly, mad at ourselves, talking badly to ourselves. I tell you, I love playing tennis, and I can't even tell you how many times women will be just yelling at themselves. It gets really bad. It's embarrassing, really. And, but that's the internal dialogue coming out through a game, verbalized, which is the stuff that goes on inside the head. And it's really unfortunate because we've, again, been conditioned or programmed to believe that keeps us in line or keeps us motivated or keeps us doing a good job. But come on, if you really had a person outside of you, let's say a manager speaking to you like you speak to yourself, would you feel good? Would you feel motivated? No. And so why do we allow ourselves to talk to ourselves like that? It only serves to drain us. So to charge us up, we need to be doing the opposite. We need to be talking positively about ourselves. So one way to do that is to look for the little things that we do through the day that we are proud of. And it could be very simple, like getting all your emails sent out of your inbox. That's, for me, that's an accomplishment. If I don't have any unread messages at the end of the day and I've responded to everyone, I go, good job, Jenna. You did that.
That's it.
But if you do
wins.
Yeah, the little wins. It's the little wins, because then it gets you in the habit. Then, of course, when you have the big wins, absolutely. But then you should do something a little bigger, like go out to dinner, or break open a bottle of champagne and do a toast, really take a moment to recognize it, feel good about it, appreciate it, because it really does charge up your power container, builds up your confidence, builds up your self-esteem, makes you feel good about yourself. And we need to be doing more of that.
Yes.
Not less of that, more of that.
Yes, like you said, it's a mindset. It is a mindset, and hopefully, we're able to get ourselves to that space of understanding, of being able to be comfortable sitting with ourselves. And there's so much that goes into it, but what I definitely want our listeners to understand is that it's a process. It's not something that happens overnight. We're always looking for the microwave solution where we just pop it in and boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
And we get, and that's not how we develop or how we grow. It takes time. We have to build. We have to, start looking at the things that are going on around us and saying, okay, I know that I want to do something better. I know that I need something more, and begin to start searching for those things that are going to help to strengthen us from the inside out. So that way, like you said, we're able to exude those things. We're able to have that light shine from us, but we have to first be able to take it in. So I love that you've given those tips and tricks and things that we need to do that are going to help us to be the best person that we can be, and like I said, as these holidays are coming up, as we're looking to move into a new year, start focusing in on some things that are going to bring us that joy, to bring us that satisfaction, that's going to bring us that inner peace. What are some things that we have to release? It's the fall season. So, I always say, just like leaves fall from the trees, what things need to fall away?
Yeah, I love that.
What things need to fall away so that it makes room for those new buds to grow, those
That's
new
right
things in our lives to grow. So
I love that you said that, because if you allow things to fall away, including those situations where if you set boundaries and people don't want to deal with them and they're toxic in your life or whatever, it's okay to let it fall away, because you do make room for new relationships that are going to serve you better. But if you don't have room for that, if you have all these toxic people around who aren't lifting you up and only serving to tear you down and bring you negativity, it's like you got to let that go so you could bring in new positive energy into your life.
Yes. Okay. And with that, I want to make sure that, as we come to a close, because I know we're running low on time, but I want to give people an opportunity to know how they can reach you if they are interested in your programs and want to know where they can get a copy of your book. And the name of the book is I Love Me More. And we definitely want them to be able to connect with that. So how can they get in contact with you?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's really easy. Just stop by my website, jenna-banks.com. And there you'll find links to all my social media. I'm active on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, even LinkedIn, very active there actually.
Yes.
And you'll find links to my book, which is available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, all that good stuff.
Awesome.
All through my website. So jenna-banks.com.
All right, you heard it here. And also one last thing that I always ask all of my guests, what are some things that you are doing to live in this now?
Well, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but just complete acceptance, just acceptance, no judgment. I've been working on that for a while and I feel like I've got it. And it feels so good to live in that place because, there is judgment is a human condition.
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, it just is. Yeah. It just is. Everything is exactly as it should be. And if you can just be in the moment and accept it for what it is. It just is. It is exactly how it's supposed to be. There's nothing wrong with it. Even when bad things seem to happen, things don't go your way. Don't resist it, just accept it, fully accept it, no judgment. And that will bring you so much peace and joy. I promise you.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for taking time to sit with us to talk about that revolution, to talk about how we can begin the process of self-love and giving us some tips that we can use along the way, because it's all about filling that toolbox so that we have the tools that we need in order to resolve the issues that are going on in our lives. And so I appreciate you taking time to do that. And again, once a person who is here on our show comes by and visit, you're always welcome to come back. So you're a part of the How Now family, and we're excited to have you. And again, if you are interested in finding out about her book, or you're interested in finding out all things Jenna Banks, go to www.jenna-banks.com. And that will be in the description when the show airs. So again, thank you so much for being with us, Jenna. And we
thank you for having me.
To having you back, and to also wishing you well in all that you're doing moving forward with your book and all of your other endeavors again. So thanks again.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. And that will do it for this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until we see you the next time, I say peace.